So, okay, as a long-term resident of Budapest, it's my great pleasure to welcome Agnes Herczeg, brand ambassador to Grand Tokaj. Agnes is an experienced wine professional and consultant and winner of numerous awards for her achievements in wine. So it's my honor to present her. She teaches at the University of Tokaj and Budapest Metropolitan University, amongst numerous other things that are too long to mention. And of course, it's also my great delight to introduce András Győrffy, who is the strategic consultant at Grand Tokaj. András is a passionate wine business professional with a deep expertise in the world of Tokaj wines. He's also worked with many prestigious wineries in Hungary, such as Poisas, Sauska, and Kreinbacher. And he also consults to the Hungarian Wine Marketing Agency. So Agnes and András are going to be introducing us to Tokaj and to Grand Tokaj today. And I'd like to hand over now to Agnes.
Thank you so much, Sue, and thank you everybody joining this presentation today. And as for Sue, just a couple of words going back. She's an amazing source of Hungarian wine knowledge. You can ask anytime her, and also András and myself are here to answer all your questions. Ask about Hungary, write about Hungary. We are very pleased for every articles and every question. So thank you so much for joining this presentation today. And as Sue already mentioned, we are going to talk about Tokaj. And can you see the presentation? Can you see the slide? Perfect. Thank you for the confirmation. So I'm going to start with some general information where we are exactly coming from. As you can see, we're really in the middle of Europe, in the heart of Europe. Hungary is located there. The country itself is not that big. As you can see, the population is around 10 million, and our capital city is Budapest. I hope you visited already Hungary. When you are welcome to come back anytime. There will be great opportunities. We are preparing some amazing event in the spring and also in the autumn. So you are anytime welcome back to Hungary. And where is exactly Tokaj? Now, today we are going to talk Tokaj wine region. In Hungary, we have 6 wine regions altogether, and one of the most famous is the Tokaj wine region, which is located, as you can see, in the northeast part of the country. So we are very close to the Slovakian border and very close also to the Ukrainian border. Just a brief history why that makes the Tokaj region so unique. So as you maybe know that Tokaj has a beautiful long history behind. The viticulture was already present in the region from the Celtic times already, and also some lovely fossils was found, which also was a Vitis vinifera long time ago. And in the 12th century, the French Wallon settlers already established the winemaking. And in the 13th century, the Italian wine growers were present in the wine region. And in 1571, that was the first mention of the Asu wine. Asu, we are using this word for the botrytis-affected berries. And Asu, it's a kind of version of the word shivering. So it's not, so we are using this word asu, asot, also in general in Hungarian terms. So this is our word, what we are using for the botrytis-affected berries. And the first known mention of this word was in 1571. And the method of the asu wine making was dating back to 1630s, and the gentleman who wrote about this process, how we are producing the asu, was Sziratko Máté. And the gold age of the asu production started in the 16th, 17th centuries, thanks to the Rákóczi family. They gave all the noble families, the royal families all around Europe as a present to Tokaj asu. That helps to make our wine world famous, let's say, in that time. And also, he was the one who gave a present, an asu bottle, to Louis XIV, and also the Louis XV gave a present to Madame Pompadour, and he said, "This is the king of the wine and wine of the kings." Vinum regnum rex vinorum. So, of course, we hear these quotes from many places, but we truly believe it's really originated from the Louis XV, and when he gave this beautiful present to Madame Pompadour, dating back that area. And we are also very proud that we truly believe the first vineyard classification of the world was in Tokaj in 1713, and also in 1737 we had the first closed protected wine region of the world. And of course, Hungary also suffered from phylloxera, and in 1886, after phylloxera, we started replanting the vineyards, of course, on grafted vines. And in 2002, we gained the UNESCO World Heritage Site word, or no, what's the right word for this soon? This UNESCO World Heritage Site.
UNESCO World Heritage. You're listed as a World Heritage Site.
A recognition. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, it's something. Okay. Just to continue the general information about the Tokaj wine region, as I already mentioned, the Tokaj is located in the northeast Hungary. You can see the shape of the wine region. It's like a triangle. The southernmost part is the Tokaj town itself, and it's a very unique because Grand Tokaj has also beautiful vineyard there called Szarvas. We have a single vineyard also from there. But in together, we have 28 villages that you can find in Tokaj wine region. And of course, Noble Road, for Noble Road, we need water. And we have two really beautiful rivers there, Bodrog and Tisza. When you're coming to the wine region, you definitely have to go for a boat ride. It's really beautiful to see how these two rivers meet each other. And this really helps this magic, this autumn magic. This year is really beautiful. We have lots of sunshine, and all the mornings you can see the mist, the early morning mist thanks to these two rivers. It's stunning. It's really stunning. I'm very, very, very happy with this vintage. Really beautiful Tokaj this time of the year. So come and discover for yourself this period of the year. Really beautiful. The total vineyard area is not that much, 5,500 hectares. I'm quite sure you're familiar with numbers. In Hungary, our total vineyard area around 60 hectares. In Bordeaux, we have 130,000, so it's half of them. So can you see it's a very tiny little wine region. Tokaj is really not big. And within Tokaj, we have 18,000 vineyard parcels. So the average size of the vineyards are quite small, 0.3 hectares. As you can see, we have 3,900 grape growers and more than 200 wineries you can find here. So as you can see, the integration role of the larger wineries is very important because most of the grape growers are selling the grapes to the larger wineries. Okay, and I'm quite sure you know this, but I would like to go more in details. So what makes Tokaj really unique and special? The Noble Road, and of course the terroir. Here on the left picture, you can see the process, how the berries turning with the help of both varieties. Yes, we had a question from Michelle. The history of Tokaj always has been the large number of smaller wineries, or this is a more recent factor. It was always like this. It was always like this. We had some, not really always, because going back to 200 years ago, of course, the noble families has larger vineyards, their own larger vineyards. András, do you want to add something else?
It's, as you said, before it was bigger, but during the communist regime, it was controlled that family, how much vineyard can hold. So that's why it's so small now.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So,
it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It was a good one. So this is the process how the dry wine changing into the asu berries. And later on, we are going to talk about what the type of the wines you can find in the Tokaj region. But I love this picture because it shows really nicely how the process is going from the dry berry to the asu berries. And as you can see, we can different groups for the berries. Of course, the totally healthy ripe berries we are using for the dry wine. For the late harvest, we are also using a very ripe berries, and also the shivered berries, and also the berries started to get the botrytis. But the majority for the late harvest is used for the shivered berries. When the botrytis started to attacking the wine, we are starting to talk about samorodni. Samorodni means as it is. So in that case, we are harvesting the whole bunches, but later on I'm going to talk a bit more about these details. And for the asu berries, it's a very unique process. András will tell you a bit more about asu winemaking more in details. But back to the terroirs and the volcanoes, why we're really proud of having Tokaj in Hungary, because this place is really mythical and has a great history. So going back with million years, there were more than 400 old volcanoes working that area. And lots of eruptions formed this place. And going back that era, that time, there was also the Pannonian Sea covered this whole Carpathian basin where Hungary is located. So we have also lots of fossils, and the soil itself is quite diverse. And we have lots of minerals within the bedrocks, the tuff sand rocks and sedimentary rocks. We have andesite, rhyolite, zeolite, dacite, perlite, obsidian, quartz. So a lot of diversity you can find within the vineyards. And even within a single vineyard, there are different parcels. And the component of the soil really helps the wines because, for example, zeolite and also the other soft powdery stones working like a sponge and can help storing the water in the soil. And even for a more difficult and dry vintage, like last vintage, we have really a very dry vintage. The wine had some more storage with some water available, so that can help the wines to having a more vivid plant, as a vivid plant. And also these very diverse minerals and soil can help to form a very, very unique terroir for the wines. And most of the winemakers, so some of the winemakers started not just producing vineyard selections, but also parcel selections. Because just mentioning some of the best vineyards, within the vineyards you can find different soils and minerals. For example, within the Herczeg, you can find places with more rich in andesite, the other part is more rich in rhyolite. So parcel selection is also something very new within Tokaj. And also, of course, the dry vines, which is also recent, in the last 20 years, we started to producing more intensively dry vines in Tokaj. That also can help to show the different terroirs of Tokaj. Okay. Talking a bit more about climate, here we have, of course, a moderate continental climate, and as already mentioned, the Bodrog and Tisza helps to generate the morning humidity needed for the noble rods. The temperature is quite gentle. The annual temperature is 10 Celsius degree. The first autumn freeze is really that time, that vintage a bit warmer than the usual. But last year, for example, that time of the year, we already had some frost in the morning, so it's really.
This morning was the first freezing night, but today was the first freezing day in Tokaj.
Yes, but during
so
the
it's
day,
quite accurate.
Yes, yes. But during the day, it's still very nicely sunny. That really helps. I think this is the perfect condition for botrytis. Let's say that. Do you agree, András? And now it's
Ideal.
Yes, we are in the middle of the raspberry harvest, so very thrilled. This vintage is very thrilled. So the annual rainfall is 550 millimeter, which is okay. Usually the problem is when we receive the rain. So ideally, in an ideal vintage, of course, we had some lovely rainfall in spring, a little, not too much in summertime, but last year was very dry. This year was very wet, the early growing season. So it's really diverse and really changing with the global warming. And we have a lot of sunshine. As for the spring freeze, recently in Tokaj, not much problems with spring frost. I think it's getting a slightly bit better in the region of Tokaj. It's not true for the whole country, but in Tokaj, we can say it was not so worst in the last vintages. Okay. As for a grape variety, we have our three most important grape varieties are the Furmint, Hárslevelű, and Sárga Muskotály, which is the Muscat Blanc and Petit Grain. And Furmint is really well known now from all around the world. Maybe you've heard lots of campaign going on Furmint. Furmint February, for example, is quite popular in the UK, and we started to continue these activities all around the world. We really love Furmint. It's a semi-aromatic winery, and it's reflecting very nicely the terroir characteristics. And it's really great for dry wines, but and absolutely amazing for Asu wines. And of course, it's suitable for the noble rotting. The aroma profile is quince, some apple, peach, also some apricot, dried apricot if it gets some botrytis. Hárslevelű has some more floralness, more kindness. Sometimes we are also blending it even for dry wines and also for dry Furmint, as if the law allowed us to add some 5-10%. So we sometimes adding some a little portion of Hárslevelű to the Furmint just to give some extra complexity. That also gives some extra floral into the blend. And Sárga Muskotály, of course, it's really aromatic. You are familiar with this blend. And all these three varieties are the basis of most of the Hungarian wines. We also had the local varieties Kövérszőlő, Zéta, and Kabar, and it's representing a minor percentage of the total white grape varieties. I'm going to talk very soon about the new challenges and what the new trends of the wine region, but this is the base of the wine region. All our wines historically are built on these grape varieties. So Furmint, Hárslevelű, and Sárga Muskotály, Muscat Blanc, and Petit Grain. As you can see now, today, the total wine production of Tokaj, 21% are dry wines, and the rest white wines with natural residual sugar is 69%. And you can see, yes, there is altogether 90%, and I'm going to talk about later on what the rest of this 10% is, because there are some new trends in Tokaj, and I'm going to talk a bit more later on this. András.
So my part is to talk about the legislation and the rules and all that kind of things in the Tokaj region. So as Agnes already mentioned, Tokaj was the first closed wine region in the world. which means that it's not possible to take in a grape and wine from outside. So we can only use our own production. Now also it's controlled that only bottled wine can leave the region. So before it was allowed to bottle outside of the Tokaj region, but now with the Tokaj appellation on the label, it's only bottled wine can leave the region. One other important rule is that it's not allowed to, since it's a sweet wine region, it's very important that it's not allowed to add sugar or concentrated must to the wine. So it's not allowed to chaptalize. So only the natural sugar, what's in the grape, is allowed to use. So it's a big difference compared to some of the other sweet wine producing countries that they can add sugar or they can add alcohol. We are not allowed to add alcohol either to the wines. So completely natural sweet wines, what we are producing. What is interesting now is now we allowed mechanical harvest since I think 2 years. Before it was forbidden, but I think Agnes will talk about later on when she will talk about the sustainability. We don't have enough labor, and what we have is getting more and more expensive. So now the region allows to use the harvesters, but of course for the dry wines and semi-sweet wines also, but not for the Asu wines and for the Samorodni, and it's not possible either because the skin of the grape is very thin, so it's not possible to harvest with harvesters. Also interesting new category, the sparkling wine, which is allowed since 2017 to produce in the Tokaj region under the Tokaj appellation, but it has to be bottle fermented. So only bottle fermented Tokaj wines can have Tokaj name on it, and only the Tokaj varieties, so Furmint, Hársler, and Muscat, but it's mostly made from Furmint. What is also a new law, it's that the indication on the sugar content on the normal wines, if it's under 18 grams, we don't have to put on dry or semi-dry. It's just Tokaj wine, basic wine. It's because producers are after the balance. So sometimes if it's an acidic year, it's better to have more sugar. So we can have 8, 9, 10 grams sugar, and the wine still seems to be very dry. So we are not putting, you can decide, but normally they don't put whether it's dry or not. But of course, if it's over 18 grams, you have to put semi-sweet or sweet wine. That's a new part of the legislation. And what is also interesting now, since last year, it's in the wine law now that we will separate the vineyards to hillside vineyards and to flatland vineyards. And in the future, the region wants to control that new plantations they want to have on the hillsides, not on the flatlands. And the way they will control this, that for the new plantations, only the hillside vineyards can have the Tokaj name on the labels. The flatlands, you can produce wine, but not with the Tokaj appellation. There's a discussion about that, whether it can be used for sparkling. I think at the end, this will be the solution, that for sparkling, they will allow to use the flatland vineyards. And maybe for those vineyards, there's also a big discussion about the varieties. They will allow international varieties like Pinot Noir or Chardonnay. But it's a long discussion, and it's not decided yet. And also there's a big discussion about resistant varieties, whether to allow them or not. Like in Champagne, I think now you can have 5 or 10%. PV wines in the blend. So that's also a topic in Tokaj, which will Agnes also talk about, because that's can be a sustainable question as well.
As it's a more diverse question. And Vink has a very good question. She asked, so technically, could a pet nut be made with the Tokaj name?
Pardon?
So technically, could a pet nut be made with the Tokaj name? A pet nut.
Since that's also bottle fermented, I think you can call it Tokaj. So, and also method transfers can be Tokaj when you have the big bottles fermentation. Sorry.
And Michelle's question.
And I think there is pet nut on the market. Some producers already making pet nut.
Dorka already made, but yes, not sure about the name.
I think it says Tokaj on the label.
I think so.
But it's bottle fermented, so I think it's
technically
okay.
Yes.
And I made up a table with all the figures and analytic data what you must have in the wines. I will start with the Essentia. I don't know how familiar you are with the Essentia. It's the pinnacle, top product in Tokaj. It's only the free-run juice of the botrytis berries. So we do an individual berry selection. We pick out the botrytis berries one by one, and it's collected in a container. And then some juice is coming out at the bottom just from the berry's own weight. And that's called Essentia or nectar in Hungarian. The sugar content is extremely high. It's minimum 450 grams. But it can go up until 650, 700 grams, or even you can have more. I think that's the most concentrated product what you can get out of grapes. You have to make it ferment, which is extremely difficult with this kind of figures, because if you put in commercial yeast, for example, it dies right away because of the high sugar content. So you can only have the natural white yeast working in it, and the fermentation can go on for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, no problem. It just ferments on the surface of the wine, and at the end you will gain only about 3-4% alcohol. But then what you have, it can live forever, basically 100 years, 200 years, no problem. So the important figure here is the 450 grams. That's the minimum what you need. And then from the Zasu berries, you make the Asu wine. So you macerate the Asu berries, the botrytis berries, with either must or fermenting must or finished wine from the same vintage. But in most of the case, people are using fermenting wine, because then the fermentation just goes on. It's more easy to ferment, and the ratio is important here. It's controlled that from 1 kilo you can have maximum 2.2 liters of Asu wine and 40 dash altogether. That's since 2013. The sugar level is minimum 120 grams since 2013, because then the wine law has changed completely. Because before there was 3 puttony, 4 puttony, 5 puttony, 6 puttony, and that's Essentia, and now we don't have 3 and 4 puttony. So that was 3 was from 60 grams to 90, and from 90 to 120 it was 4 puttony. So we don't have those. We only have 5 put from 120 grams of residual sugar, and you can call it 6 put if it's above 150 grams of sugar. But if you decide, you don't even have to put the puttony number on the bottle. If you call it if you call it Asu, it's minimum 5 puttony.
There is a very
And,
good question from Neil. If you don't mind, I just put it here. He asking for the dry Samorodni. Is there a maximum residual sugar for a dry Samorodni?
For the dry, it's I think it's a normal category as dry, so it's 9 grams, I think.
But this is the minimum residual sugar, but there is a maximum level
For dry?
for dry.
No. A minimum is I don't know. That's a
For
good
dry
question.
Samorodni, it's minimum 9. I think, of course, definitely, if it's about 41, that's a sweet Samorodni. But most of the winemaker keep it on a very dry style. It's a bit like
Because it's
Fino Sherry, a little bit like a Fino.
normally it's between 9 and 15, 18 grams, not more. But I think until 45 grams you can call it dry, and above 45 it's a sweet.
And as for sweet Samorodni, you can find even very high sugar level sweet Samorodnis on the markets.
There's no maximum. You can have even above 200 grams. You can have sweet Samorodni. There are some examples, because it's a technology, which means you don't pick out the Győrffy berries one by one. You work with whole bunches, and if you have a lot of botrytis berries, then you can have really high sugar content in the finished Samorodni wine, even up to 200 grams. And then we have the two interesting category, what you don't find anywhere else in the world, the fordítás and máslás. Fordítás is the second maceration of the botrytis berries. So you on the botrytis berries you put the base wine, it's fermented, then you press it out, and then you do a second maceration, and then you have the fordítás. And the máslás is working with the lees. After you take you keep the lees of the asu, and you put normal wine on it, and it still has some sweetness, so that's the máslás. But I don't know when last time I tasted máslás. It's very rarely produced. I don't know whether Agnes, you tried, but I think since 10 years I haven't tried máslás. But fordítás, it's still on the market. And then you can have late harvest. It's usually from shriveled berries. You can have some botrytis in it. Most of the producers are not using oak on the late harvest, while on Samorodni, it's by law you have to age it in oak for minimum 6 months. But with the late harvest, it's a more easy category, so not so much regulations. Sugar content there can go up to even over 200 grams, the same as with the Samorodni. So, but no oak aging required there. And you can release it a lot faster than Samorodni. Samorodni is a bit over a year, the aging requirement. And so you can release it in January, the second year after the harvest. With the Győrffy is the third year, so that's 1 year longer aging. And with the Győrffy, it's 18 months in barrel. Usually all the wineries are using our own oak from the Zemplén Mountains. Some companies did experiments with French oak, but 95% I think it's a local oak. Even some companies, they produce their own barrels, like Tokaj, so they have their forest and they make the oak from their own forest. That's it basically what we have here.
Okay, I just keep
and
on
now the challenge is on Agnes.
Yes, now the challenge is on me. And Michelle just asked an amazing question. Do you think it's a good idea to expand the range of grape varieties to the blend? Actually, it's not necessary expanding the grape varieties for the blend. So usually we are keeping our traditional blends. So we are, for the Asu, the late harvest, all these wines we are producing, the sweet wines, the noble sweet wines, we are still using our own grape varieties. we are using full mint, házlevelű, sárga muskotáj. But as a new trend, as here you can see, we started to planting international varieties like Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Sauvignon Blanc, and even Riesling, because we are using it for the sparkling wines and also for the dry wines. Of course, Riesling is so, of course, for a sweet wine producer, challenging Riesling on a volcanic soil, it's really something unique and special. So some of the winemakers just started to challenging Riesling, how they behave in this condition, under this condition, with the botrytis or as a dry wine on a volcanic soil. And sparkling wine is a huge trend globally. So of course, and the climatic conditions working well with this firm and unique soil, also creating a very unique taste for the sparkling wines of Tokaj. So it's also a new trend. You can also, András was already mentioned in the legislation. And of course, global warming is one of the biggest challenges in Tokaj. And why? We already mentioned the differences between the vintages, the very dry vintage and the more rainfall summertime and the growing season, but also with the higher UV radiation. The grape itself started to protect itself. So the skin of the grape starting to be thicker. That means it's more difficult for the botrytis to start the botrytis process. And as for the sustainability and as for the more bio thinking, bio and organic grape growing is also getting more and more popular. But what we are doing when we encourage the grapes to improve its immune system, of course, the grapes starting to be more stronger and more resistant to the different diseases. And of course, botrytis is the noble rot, is also something which attacks the grape itself. So some of the wineries who's already started to work in bio or organic discover the botrytis is getting more difficulties in these kind of vineyards. So it's also something they have to think about it. Yes, it's a challenge. They have to do researches how they can handle it, because of course the trend is to get less chemicals in the vineyard and get more life in the vines, in the rows. And for the sustainability, the wine region itself is also thinking about the alternative packaging and how we can have a lighter glass bottles. It's also something the winery is discussing and talking about. And what else? Of course, sweet wines. There is a limited amount of wine lovers who is adoring the Asszú wines or the noble sweet wines, which of course we have to work on it, and which we have to show people all around the world that we have these amazing wines, these Asszú wines. But what the recent research is showed us, for example, in Hungary, the younger generation drinking less wines in general, but they prefer the sweet wines. And the recent researches in Hungary just showed us that they are extremely like the wines, the noble sweet wines and late harvest wines of Tokaj. So what we just discussed, and when we're talking about sweet wines or late harvest wine, or even for Asszú wines, of course, people from sweet wines drinking a bit less than from the dry wines. And that goes very good side by side with these new trends. So our biggest job now to introduce for the younger generation the late harvest wines and the aromatic wines of Tokaj, because we discovered that the younger generation who is not so familiar or not really like the general taste of the wine, they really prefer, or if they would like to start to drink wines, they really like the taste of the Tokaj wines. Also for the dry wine, but mostly for the semi-sweet, sweet styles of Tokaj wines. And here we have this natural sugar level. So that can be a great thing if you would like to introduce to the younger generation to the wines. And I know its time is flying, so I briefly would like to talk about the wineries we are working for. This is Grand Tokaj. I call it a gentle giant. Why I'm saying that? Because that is the largest winery of the historical Tokaj wine region in Hungary. It founded in 1948 by the Hungarian state. And that time the name was the company Tokaj Kereskedőház. And now Grand Tokaj is owned by the Tokaj-Hegyalja University Foundation, and it provides 35% of the region's total wine production. And it has a very huge integrating force in the region, as it's sourcing grapes from more than 600 private growers over an area more than 600 hectares. And you remember when we're discussing about the small family grape growers, so Grand Tokaj is really playing a very important role to keep the economic sustainability of these households with the small grape growing activities. Now, Grand Tokaj is capable to produce up to 8 million bottles in consistent high quality, and we have a unique cellar in the valley of the Szegi Hills. It's the largest András cellar in Central Europe, 5.5 kilometers long, and it was a former rock mines, more than 400 years old, and we are using it for aging or also wines and Samorodni wines, so it's also part of the sustainability. Agnes is our chief winemaker. He has a very brilliant mind. Is a local patriot. He was born in the regions, so he knows every little details about how to produce in the perfect sweet wines and dry wines in Tokaj. Later on, I show you some awards, and he's also famous for his 100-point Essentia. Our wines are proudly presented in more than 45 countries on the 5 continents, so we are delivering Asszú wines and Tokaj wines almost from all around the world. Of course, Africa is something a future possibility. And as for sustainability, we are focusing more and more on this. For us, it's not so easy to switch, but we really started with small steps and it's getting larger. Now we are using environmentally friendly chemicals, and we changed also the weed control. We limited the use of the fertilizers, and we would like to completely eliminate from this vintage. And as for aging and bottling, we started to use photovoltaic forklifts, and also we started to renewing all the air changing system. So it's step by step, we're changing everything to more sustainable and more eco-friendly. But of course, as a large winery, we cannot do it immediately, and we cannot do everything immediately. But this is what we are working on it. And András will say some words about our portfolio, and we open the floor for questions. András, you're muted. András, you're muted. Now I name it.
Now it's better. So, as Agnes said, we are a big company. We make over 4 million bottles of wine a year, and this is our portfolio. On the top, we have our terroir selection. Here, we use the grape from our own vineyards only. So this is our here we have our top wines, and then we have the classic selection, which is the old label, slightly modernized, which is very well known around the world. There we use some of our own production plus what we purchase from outside from our small producers, and then The third level is an interesting new level, new products called speakeasy wines, which are aimed at the young generation of wine consumers. So people who are not drinking wines normally, we would like them to drink wines. So we make these wines, which are all with some residual sugar, very easy drinking wines. We don't even mention Tokaj, maybe just on the back label. So that's an interesting category. We will see how it works out, because normally, as all over the world, the young people are not drinking wine as much as we did when we were young. So we try to get those consumers back to drink wines. We make to estate the dry wines from the terroir selection wines. We have a dry muscat and we have a dry four-mint. A muscat is completely stainless steel fermented and aged. In the four-mint we have some barrel, but it's like just a little spice, like 10%. We also have an interesting experiment now. We do individual vineyard selections from 4 vineyards, what we own. We have the Kővágó was the first where we produced single vineyard wine, but now we have Messzes, Pető, and Szarvas. So it's really interesting to see that how different they are, because they all different terroirs, different soils, and the wines are quite different. It's aged the same way. We use 500-liter oak barrels, so the difference is only the terroir. So it's interesting to try these 4 wines side by side. And then, of course, we have a late harvest in the portfolio, the Samorodni and the Asso wines. In this terroir selection, we have slightly higher sugar levels from more selected material. The control is more strict. So in late harvest, you would have something around 120 grams sugar. In the Samorodni, it's somewhere between 140 and 150. The Asso, what we have now, it's 2017, and it's about 170 grams of sugar for a 5-put. And then we have a 6-put and a single vineyard, 6-put from the famous Szarvas vineyard. And of course, on the top of the gam is the Essencia. So we make everything basically, except for sparkling. We don't do sparkling yet, but maybe in the future we start with that as well. As you can see, we have a lot of medals from all over the world, from different competitions, International Wine Challenge, Decanter, etc. We have Best in Show medals. It's only the last 3 years what you can see here. And now it's you, Agnes.
Yes. So we really run a little bit out from the time, but we already tried to answer some of your questions.
Thank you both so much. That was really, really fantastic. I learned so much. It's an immersion for me because, as I said at the beginning, I before others joined, it's really a new region to me, although obviously an ancient region with some beautiful, beautiful wines. I think there was one outstanding question that Neil had, Agnes, about the other 10%.
Oh, yes.
Neil,
yes.
Yeah. Neil, do you want to ask that question, or Agnes, do you want to just take it, or?
Yes. Sorry, yes, because I just saw that the time started to run out. So I forget to say, yes, these are the sparkling wines. Of course, in the 10% pick up the sparkling wines. A tiny little amount, we can also find some red wines.
It's usually
what are the red grapes that are used?
Mostly
Pinot
Pinot
Noir and Kék Frankos.
Kék Frankos.
Okay, thank you.
And this 10%, it's usually sold under the Zempleni appellation, so it's not not in the Tokaj appellation. It's grown in Tokaj, but we can't use Tokaj name on them.
And I think that category we are growing in the future, because we really
Yes.
would like to focusing on the higher quality on the Tokaj appellation, and Zemplin will be more for the generic, and also the experimental.
Fantastic, thank you. Are there any other questions? There was a lively chatter in the chat, back and forth. Thank you so much for answering those questions in line. It actually really, I'm sure people are very gratified by that. Michelle, you had some observations and comments in the chat. Do you have any further thoughts you'd like to share?
No, I was absolutely fascinated by everything, and thank you for responding to my questions. I just love to come and visit Tokaj. That's all I can say.
Tom, you have to. It really, so many things to
It's
show
a lot
you.
better to talk with a glass of wine.
Yes.
Oh yeah, so many things to show you. So please come anytime. We are very happy to share our contacts. But I can see Zsuzsi, I can see Sue. So you already have a great Hungarian connection. I'm pretty sure everybody is here to help to organize your visits. Come to Hungary and stay in contact. We are very happy to show you around. It's really so many great things to see.
Thank you so much. That would be absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I would love
We
to
have
go.
already started to discuss with Michelle that maybe we should organize a tour for the Circle of Wine Writers to Tokaj and to Hungary.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
That would be fantastic. Yeah. And even that, we were also talking before we started about potentially a tasting, especially for European members. And Natalie Spielman, did you have a question? I know you raised your hand. Would you like to ask a question?
No, I didn't raise my hand. I was clapping when she mentioned
clapping,
organizing
sorry.
the trip and then all this tasting stuff. So I was just going like this.
Yeah.
We're here to organize it, really. So we will find some possibilities to do it together with you, I'm quite sure.
Oh,
I do
Yes.
have a question. Are you open to Master of Wine students contacting you with questions?
Please, yes,
Okay, good.
100% is sure. And I'm quite sure you know that Sue is very close to achieving the Master of Wine title. So she's also brilliant help. And I think it's worth also for both of you to contact, but we are here to help and answer all your questions.
Great.
One of the new Master of Wines, Wojtek Bonkowski, he wrote his diploma on Tokaj, so it's quite interesting to read as well.
Yes. But
We helped
Natalie,
him a lot.
feel free to send all your questions to us. I just dropped my email into the chat. And that can also helpful, I think.
Thanks very much. Well, if there are no further questions or comments, I just want to thank so much our presenters, András and Agnes. And I want to mention that our next seminar is on November 7th. It's a Greek wine seminar, so stay tuned for that and watch for your emails. And this session will be on our Circle of Wine Writers YouTube channel later, and we also posted in the member section of the Circle website. So any further questions, feel free to send them along to administrator@circleofwinewriters.org or reach out to any one of us on the committee directly. And thank you so much to our guests and to all of you for coming.